Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and welcome to the June Patron-sponsored video. That's right, every month the members of the Nebula Navigator tier get to vote on a number of different archetypes for me to cover, and this month they've settled on Dual Avatar. Premiering in the core set Phantom Rage, Dual Avatar is inspired by Neo statues. If you've ever seen this pair of girl-bossing, gatekeeping guardians in games, TV, or other kinds of media, that's what they're referencing. They originated in Indian Buddhism as figures that would guard the Buddha, but as aspects of Buddhism permeated the world, parts of it would end up being adapted into, or had parts incorporated into, distinct branches of Buddhism, Shintoism, and Taoism. And that last one may sound familiar, as we talked quite a bit about Taoism in the last patron-voted video insofar as it related to Unchained. Since release, people have speculated that Dual Avatar and Unchained are part of the same storyline, and while there's been nothing to support this directly, whether in card art, effects, or paratextual sources like VJump articles, I attribute this assumption to the cultural overlap the two archetypes share, which makes it a strangely appropriate follow-up to last month's video. We've got a lot to go over today, so let's get right to the training. We'll go over the basic forms we have access to, practice them so we can understand what they can accomplish, then research some other martial arts we can mix in to improve our technique. Let's get ready to duel with the Dual Avatars. But before we continue, a quick reminder to please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. We've blasted past the previous goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, but like one of the most powerful Utopia cards, I'm going all in. Double or nothing. And if we get to 10,000 subscribers, I'll cover that card as well as many others in Utopia Explained. We've also got our Discord, where you too can play a non-canon character in the ongoing storyline of this channel, and a Twitter where you can stay up to date on channel news and my bad takes. And if you really like what I do here, please consider joining my YouTube membership. It's basically like a Twitch sub, or backing me on Patreon so you can get your name in the credits, as well as help determine future Explained videos that I make, like this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and now, back to the video. So what's the deal with Dual Avatar? Well, they're a series of light warrior monsters that revolve around a pair of main deck monsters and their fusion evolutions. You can either make these fusions using only the copious amounts of tokens you generate, or by sprinkling in some on-theme effect monsters, which can confer some pretty substantial benefits. Let's start by going over the main deck duo. Dual Avatar feed Kokoku and I'm gonna pause the video here for a bit. I want to give you all time to get the jokes out of your systems, share in your group chats, post on Twitter, check the inventory of your favorite feat picks provider if you're so inclined. Don't knock it, they provide an integral service to those who are interested. But you're not gonna find the feat jokes here, cause honestly, it'd be pretty hypocritical of me. The things you'd find in my search history would rend the very soul from your body. You would read the list as one person, but walk away as another. Anyway, Dual Avatar feat Kokoku is a level 3 monster with 800 attack and 2000 defense, and when normal or special summoned, you can add a Dual Avatar trap card from your deck to your hand. Also, during your opponent's turn, if any number of face-up Dual Avatar monsters you control are destroyed by battle or card effect, except any copies of itself, you can special summon Kokoku from your hand, then you can apply the following effect. You can destroy a Dual Avatar monster you control, and if you do, special summon a Dual Avatar fusion monster from your extra deck. So not only does this +1 us into a trap card, of which we have several good ones, it can retaliate by summoning one of your biggest monsters out of the extra deck at a huge discount. This does mean they won't be summoned using an effect monster as material, and we'll go over the extent of how important that is later on, but spoilers, it's not that big a deal, since it can kick your plays into overdrive. Dual Avatar Fists Yui is a level 4 monster with 1800 attack and 1000 defense, and they can target a Dual Avatar monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, you add a Dual Avatar spell from your deck to your hand. Also, if any number of face-up Dual Avatar fusions you control would be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can add Yui from your grave to your hand as long as one of those fusions were fusion summoned using an effect monster. Yui is your gateway to the rest of your game plan, as it's of the utmost importance you draw them and resolve their effect as early and often as possible. And thankfully, as long as the fusions they go into are destroyed, you can keep them in rotation to use them turn after turn. They also make for a good script editor, as they have a real knack for punching up the dialogue. Now it's time to cover the fusions, but let's take a quick detour and talk about the effect we'll primarily use to get them into play. Dual Avatar Invitation is a normal spell you can activate by discarding a card, and if you do, you special summon as many Dual Avatar Spirit tokens as possible, which are level 2 light warrior monsters with 0 attack and defense. And for the rest of the turn, your extra deck is locked off except for fusion monsters, all tokens you control can't be tributed, and they're destroyed during the end phase. Then, after summoning those tokens, you can apply the following effect up to 2 times. Fusion summon a dual avatar fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. That's a big block of text, but it boils down to giving you a bunch of material and a couple of polymerizations to make dual avatar monsters with, while keeping you from just plugging this card into any other strategy that would love to field a huge board of tokens. And while the theme is very hostile towards the inclusion of link monsters, you're still going to want to make use of the extra monster zone for your fusions so you have as much room in your main monster zone as possible for tokens. I'd also like to point out that the spirit token monsters look very much like Koma Inu, another kind of guardian pair that can be found flanking gates, which would make these the mansplain manipulating manimals. They have even more connections to the Neo than that, but we'll get into those when we cover the field spell. For now, I'd like to point out that the Koma Inu come in two versions, the ones with their mouths open called Agyo, and the ones with closed mouths called Ungyo. And wouldn't you know it, that's reflected in the next couple of fusions we're gonna talk about. Dual Avatar Feet Armored Ungyo is a level 5 fusion monster with 1700 attack and 2100 defense, requiring 2 dual avatar monsters. If any number of dual avatar fusion monsters you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can destroy a dual avatar monster you control instead. Also, during any main phase as a quick effect, if you control a dual avatar fusion monster that used an effect monster as fusion material, you can target a face-up monster special summoned from the extra deck and negate its effects until the end of the turn. Ungyo is your defensive fusion, essentially redirecting effect destruction and providing effect negation for some of the game's most impactful payoffs, though not always for its most effective starters. And since it only checks if any of your on-theme fusion summons are made with an effect monster, you can summon them out cheaply while that's the case and still get the full benefits. So if you're looking for a little extra protection, this monster's a great way to go. Dual Avatar Fists Armored Agyo is a level 6 fusion monster with 2100 attack and 1500 defense, also requiring 2 dual avatar monsters as material. If special summoned, you can target an attack position monster your opponent controls and destroy it, but Agyo can't attack directly for the rest of the turn. And while you control any dual avatar fusion monster that used an effect monster as material, all your dual avatar fusions gain 300 attack and defense. Notably, this stat boost does stack, and much like Ungyo, it only checks if any of those fusion monsters have an effect monster as material, so any effect that will cheaply and easily throw Agyos onto the board is a great way to boost your offensive might. And no matter what, it's just removal when you slap it onto the board. Also, I just love how the art took the 2 different forms of the Koma Inu into account when making their auras. Agyo's is open while Ungyo's is closed. What a good puppy. Who's a good giant lion puppy that combats the forces of evil? It's you. You're the good giant lion puppy. Dual Avatar Empowered Mitsujaku is a level 7 fusion monster with 2000 attack and 3000 defense, requiring dual avatar Feet Kokoku and 2 dual avatar monsters as material. The first time each dual avatar fusion monster you control would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not, and once per turn during your main phase, you can return all spell and traps your opponent controls to the hand. Also, when a monster effect is activated on your opponent's side of the field while you control 2 or more fusion monsters, you can destroy that monster. So it's effectively a Ghost Ogre that you can use every turn, and while it's a very strong effect given the correct meta, I don't think we're in the right one now. Some play lines will require their starter to survive the effect resolving to continue that line, but more resilient decks just need the effect, something Mitsujaku doesn't deal with. However, it does always have one half of a giant Trunade, which is nice as long as your opponent doesn't have a lot of tanky-like cards that will get them a benefit for replacing them. And the battle destruction immunity might have been better if it extended past the monsters that already have beastly stats. I don't know, the more I talk about Mitsujaku, the less empowered I feel. Dual Avatar Empowered Kongyo is a level 8 fusion monster with 3000 attack and 1700 defense, requiring dual avatar Fists Yui and 2 dual avatar monsters as material. If they battle, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step, and if Kongyo attacks, after damage calculation, you can return a monster your opponent controls to the hand. Also, when your opponent's spell or trap card or effect is activated that targets Kongyo on the field while you control 2 or more fusion monsters, you can negate the activation of that card or effect. Once again, this seems like a lot of investment, but with the flood of tokens you get from Invitation, that and a single Yui are often enough to bring this big bruiser online. Even the second effect of Kokoku is enough, and while the protection effect requires you to have a couple of fusions on the field, all the other effects are always online, including the non-targeting bounce after battle. Its activation window is very narrow, but it's a clean out to anything that isn't just immune to your effects. And because it's an Armades, hard negation like Borreload Savage doesn't work on them. Combine that with their ability to shut off floating effects when attacking, and you've got a monster that can control the battlefield with an iron fist. Okay, now it's time for the rest of the spells and traps. Perfect Sync Aun is a field spell that, when activated, allows you to add a dual avatar monster from your deck to your hand, and once per turn, if you control a dual avatar effect monster, you can special summon a dual avatar spirit token, but you're locked out of extra deck summons, except for fusion monsters, for the rest of the turn. So what's the deal with this name? Well, Aun is, after the long history of translating from Sanskrit to Japanese, the first and last syllables of the mantra Mani Padme Hum, which is... You know what, I don't get to do this very often, but it's time to rope in a game from my childhood that's oddly very helpful right now. Everyone, I present to you Arthur, the helpful AI from the time-bending adventure game The Journeyman Project, to explain further.
Those colorful symbols on yonder rock are the 6 syllables of a holy Buddhist mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. It means Om, a jewel in the lotus.
Now, the jewel in the lotus part is likely not as literal as all that, but the first and last syllables, Om and Hum, which Aun is derived from, represents the beginning and the end when put together, encompassing everything from the start to the finish. Aun is also used figuratively in Japanese as a way to express a harmonious relationship, and we see this personified in the pairs featured in the archetype, the Neo and the Koma Inu, one with an open mouth, meant to vocalize Ah, the other closed, vocalizing Two of a pair, different but harmonious, encompassing the beginning and end of all things. It's also an incredible starter card, getting you access to Yui and a free token for them to destroy to get you Invitation. My only complaint is that the artwork doesn't look like they're in sync, it looks like they're about to beat the snot out of each other. Well, that, and it violates the Articles of Extra Deck Continuity. You're not supposed to use the word sync in a non-synchro deck, you're just gonna confuse the Yugi boomers. Dual Avatar Defeating Evil is a quick play spell that has you targeting a dual avatar monster you control and any card your opponent controls, and you destroy them. Then, if you destroy a dual avatar fusion monster you control with this effect, you can either draw a card or banish a card from your opponent's grave. This card is pretty funky. If we think about it in terms of traditional card advantage, it usually resolves as a -1. Your opponent loses a card, but you lose the monster and the spell. But we generate a ton of tokens, so we can just as easily trade one for any of our opponent's monsters without batting an eye. But if you do have to destroy a real monster, I'd recommend Agio. They pop a card when they come in, and if you put them in the grave, then your revival effects become removal as well. And then you can either draw a card to even out the loss in card economy, or banish the card you just destroyed, making it lose the opportunity to trigger any effects they would have had in the grave. Or you can just banish anything else if it's helpful to do so. This card isn't picky, though it does feel like it kind of defeats the purpose. Dual Avatar Return is a normal trap that targets a dual avatar monster in your grave and special summons it. Then if it's level 4 or lower, you make a dual avatar spirit token. You can get Yui, paired with a token to feed their effect, or Kokoku can search a replacement copy of Return, and you get to keep the token for other stuff. But don't let the extra value distract you from the fact that you can summon the fusions with this as well, as long as they were properly summoned. Ungyo can provide effect negation and destruction protection at quick effect speed, Agyo provides removal and an attack boost, Mitsujaku gets you some removal, or just a huge beat stick with Kongyo. It's deceptively versatile, and for what it costs you, it's a great return on your investment. Dual Avatar Ascendance is a normal trap that has you targeting a dual avatar monster you control, and if you do, special summon a dual avatar monster from your deck or extra deck that's one level higher or lower than the destroyed monster had on the field. And during your main phase, except during the turn Ascendance was sent to the grave, you can banish Ascendance to target a dual avatar monster in your grave and add it to your hand. Now this sounds pretty situational, right? What if you don't have the levels available to make the effect live? What if they don't line up properly? You might be thinking that, unless you've been paying very close attention. From the level 2 dual avatar spirit tokens to the level 8 empowered Kongyo, there's a monster that occupies every level in between. So you can do stuff like turn tokens into Kokokus, summoning Agyo to pop a card, then downshift them into Ungyo for effect negation, or attack with Kongyo, destroy a monster by battle, bounce another one, then turn them into Mitsujaku to close things out. It certainly helps your play sequences rise to the next level. Our last card is Dual Avatar Compact, a normal trap you can activate during any main phase. As cost, you banish any dual avatar spell or trap in your grave, and Compact's effect becomes that spell or trap's effect when that card is activated. This effectively works as a spellbook of the master for dual avatar, acting as a way to double up on your hard once per turn effects. Banish the field spell to get a search, return for another revival, or defeating evil for removal. Recently we talked about Diamond Dude's effect and how it bypasses cost, and the same applies here. However, make sure you're checking your semicolons. Everything after that is part of the effect, so you'll still have to discard for invitation. It's a surprisingly versatile effect, wrapped up in a compact little package. Okay, so that's all the dual avatar cards, but what do we do with them? Well, looking at everything, there isn't anything the deck does that other decks don't do better. Shaddoll has them beat in the controlling the field and beating things up with fusions department. It doesn't hold a candle to decks like Sky Striker and Altergeist in the using back row to influence the flow of the game category, and even the summon a bunch of tokens to use for other effects gimmick is handled much better in generators. It feels more like a mad scientist deck, where we've got a whole bunch of little knobs and levers to mess with to accomplish fun stuff, but not much else. However, if we want to focus on a winning mindset, we need to see what we can accomplish at the intersection of these three parameters. And while the last point is more about generating resources for us to use to get to our end game, the first two intersect in a way that sees us summoning big monsters relatively cheaply, then tagging them out between forms at quick effect speed. And if anyone's been keeping an eye on the newly emerging Reaper format, this may sound rather familiar: Strike Ninja. So that's our game plan. We summon big monsters as quickly and cheaply as possible to force out our opponent's answers, and when faced with those answers, chain cards like Destroying Evil, Return, Invitation, and Compact to essentially fizzle those answers to keep the pressure going. But what can we play to help them out? Since you're destroying a bunch of your own monsters to enable your effects, we might have found a decent home for Supply Squad. It's effectively Upstart Goblin the turn you use it, which I'm told is a very powerful card, but nets you progressively more advantage the longer you're allowed to keep it on the field. And with cards like Evil and Ascendance blowing up your own cards at quick effect speed, this lets you draw on your opponent's turn, which helps you draw into your hand traps or cards that'll help you with your follow-up plays. I'm finding myself playing Fusion deployment in quite a few of the decks we've covered recently, and for good reason. We're already locking ourselves into fusions by virtue of playing this theme, so it comes with virtually zero downside. It's an otherwise unconditional unexpected die, which gets us access to a spell search from Yui or a trap search from Kokoku, and has the added benefit of making sure we have an effect monster that we can use to get Ungyo and Agyo online. As for a silly tech pick, you might want to throw in a couple of copies of Vanilla Polymerization. It helps in case you can't get access to Invitation, but more importantly, it gives you a wider access to fusion monsters. For instance, 2 dual avatar tokens get you First of the Dragons, a monster that's particularly difficult to get over, even by some of the most fearsome monsters in the game today, like Dragoon or Nibiru. You can play King of the Swamp to search out the polymerization, as well as act as the specific material for Kongyo and Mitsujaku. And pro tip, Ongyo and Ungyo don't check if a monster was made with a dual avatar effect monster, just an effect monster. You can also use this trick to make Shura the Combat Star. After all, you already have so many level 5 or higher warriors, putting them together with a King of the Swamp should be a piece of cake. At that point, you'll win just about every combat, and it even floats into a monster that does functionally the same thing. It may be a bit of an eccentric pick, but hey, most stars are. And that's all I have to say about Dual Avatar. It's hard to recommend them over other themes if you're looking to play the best of any given category, but if you're looking for an off-the-wall strategy that has a lot of fun little interactions and nuances, then it's hard to go wrong if you're looking to express yourself with these stylish monks. Dueling, after all, is less of a science and more of a martial art. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Do you think Dual Avatar need to go through some more shonen training arcs, or does their mastery of spirit doggos give them the edge? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video around. It really does a lot to help me out. I'd also like to take this time to thank my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, J. Yuri Boy, as well as Nebula Navigators, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, The Wizard Moose, and The Fresh Prince of Con-Air, our Cosmic Crusaders, Chaz Ghost, Colin Todd, Panda PLS, and Legendary Raven, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. And if you want to see the archetype that might be linked with Dual Avatar, check out this video I did talking about the Unchained. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.